Jay, are you driving over to Pittsburgh? Because it's damn near impossible to fly to Pittsburgh anymore, right?
Yeah, I'm driving. It's not bad. It's a four
No.
and a half hour drive, and so the drive there won't be bad. The drive home from like midnight to 4 a.m. Tomorrow night, get back at Christmas Eve. That may not be as fun, but I don't. You're right. It's much better than flying.
No doubt about it. And I've made that drive at midnight many, many times after baseball games and trying to get back here to Cincinnati, and that's a long, long, lonely drive. I hope you have company. You're not doing it by yourself, are you?
Yeah, Paul Daner's riding with me, so
Okay,
he'll keep me laughing. He'll keep me awake.
Okay. Hey, we were just sitting here getting into some of this Zac Taylor stuff, and I'm kind of curious. I've maintained all along that what they've done the last 3 weeks, where they've really sort of changed their identity in many ways, forced to, with a backup quarterback stepping in there. They're running the ball more. I think Zac Taylor is getting a lot of credit, both locally and nationally, than maybe he's ever had at any other time, when you had Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and all these guys where people say, hey, well, if you can't win with those guys, who are you going to win with? Do you get that feeling, or do you think that there's still a significant number of those out there, whether it's in the media or the fan base, that still wonder about Zac Taylor?
Yeah, I think the critics have gone quiet, but I don't think they've changed their mind. I think they're just waiting for the next loss to happen to go back and hammer him. But honestly, he's not going to win it. If they make the playoffs, he definitely should be getting some votes for Coach of the Year. To be able to do this with a backup quarterback, to be able to manage the Burrow injury early in the year, the calf, the way they did, and come through that still alive, and then playing really good football before he got hurt again. He's done a really good job this year. And you think about it, the year they went to the Super Bowl, he didn't get a single vote for Coach of the Year. And that's, I think, what you said. A lot of people think it's just Joe Burrow carrying him along. And you can't say that now with Jake Browning running the show.
I'm kind of curious. I maintain that the portion of the fan base that goes sour on Zac Taylor is not as Zac Taylor, the head coach. It's as Zac Taylor, the play caller. You agree with that or disagree with that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, that's people's biggest beef. You can't argue with what he's done to turn this franchise around, and the attention that they put on culture, and it's not lip service. They draft and they sign guys that love football. They know exactly what they're looking for. Yeah, they want great players, but it's way more than that. It's the makeup of the man that they're really going after, and his fingerprints are all over that. So yeah, the play calling is the big issue. I think what gets lost a lot is they run a lot of RPO. And people, it's Burrow making the call at the line, whether he's going to run or he's going to pass, and it doesn't work, and everybody goes back on Zac and says that was a terrible play call, or it's 3rd and 15 and they throw short of the sticks because you're in a position where you can't take a turnover, so it's like just take the check down, and people are screaming, "Why would you throw short of the sticks?" It's not the call he played; it's just the smart play once the play develops. And the other thing is, Zach's kind of like Mike Brown, where there's a lot of other voices involved with the organization, and Mike has final say. It's the same thing with the play calling. Zach pointed out that 3rd and 21 when they hit Jamar Chase for 24 yards at Minnesota to continue the drive that tied the game. That was Dan Pitcher, the quarterback's coach, calling that play. Said, "Let's run this." Now Zach could have said no and gone a different way, but he said, "Yeah, that's a great call." They went with it. Browning made an incredible throw. So it's not, he's not a dictator in terms of play calling. I think where people get frustrated is it's not creative, it's not flashy. There's not all the wild motion that's so popular in the league now, and it's just not his philosophy. He's always said, we're not going to do motion just to do motion. There has to be a point to every single thing you do, and they just feel better, and Burrow feels better without all that going on. He wants it calm and still so he can read the defense. So there's a lot that kind of goes into it, and I think you just have to kind of look at the results. And if they're winning games and they're getting in the playoffs, I think you kind of have to live with him as a play caller.
Yeah, okay. All right, fair enough. We just had Mike DeFabo on from The Athletic, who, of course, covers the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he was talking about So many things that we're so unaccustomed to seeing going on in Pittsburgh. Now, Mike Tomlin, well documented, never had a losing season, but there are cracks everywhere. I mean, whether it's firing an offensive coordinator during the season, no offense all year long, injuries now to their current defense, which has been so good, issues with George Pickens, all of these things going on. He felt like if there was ever a game the Steelers better show up to play for the fan base and everybody else, that tomorrow is it. You believe that?
Yeah, I think it's this is a game that'll kind of define whether Tomlin still has that locker room. You mentioned the fracture with George Pickens. That's not Pitts. I mean, I'm not going to block because I don't want to get hurt. If you were to power rank the 32 teams, a wide receiver said that, I'd have Steelers at 32 out of 32. It's crazy. And we've seen this before. You mentioned it. Tomlin has never had a losing record at the end of the year. He's had losing records in December quite a bit. And this is when they turn it on. And when their backs are against the wall, or even if it's in a spoiler role where they're out of it, that team never quits. They fight to the end, and they play Steeler football to the end, and you're just not seeing it right now. I don't know if they move on from him. If they lose these next three, I think you have to. If they end the year on a 6-game losing streak, if they win the next three and get to 10-7, whether they get in the playoffs or not, I think you keep Tomlin around. And this is the pivot game. I mean, their season could go totally south if they don't beat the Bengals. And if they find a way to beat the Bengals and re-energize themselves and put themselves right back in the playoff picture, I could see them going on a run and finishing 3-0 and maybe upsetting someone in the playoffs.
All right, well, if that can be said, and certainly no one around here is likening the current situation as far as job security is concerned between Zac Taylor and Mike Tomlin. But having said that, the Bengals, the game they lost was against the Steelers team. In fairness, it was Jake Browning's first time. They didn't run the ball. I think running backs had 8 carries in the game. Do you foresee a very, very different Cincinnati offense in terms of scheming and game planning than we saw in Browning's first start 4 weeks ago?
Yeah, I do. We're not going to see the bootlegs that they've leaned on so much. You just don't want to do that against Pittsburgh. You don't want your quarterback spinning out, and then there's T.J. Watt or Alonzo Hinesmith waiting on him. So I don't think you're going to see that part of it. But since that first game, they've really leaned into the run, and they've really leaned into the screen game. And I don't know. Pittsburgh's just so hard to run on, especially under center. That's another thing where they've gone under center a lot and done play action. I don't think you're going to see that a lot on Saturday, because when you go under center against Pittsburgh, those linebackers cheat up and they make it really hard to run the ball. So I think you're gonna see more of what we started to see with the screen game, throwing it out to Chase Brown, throwing it out to Joe Mixon, getting the tight ends involved. That part of it, I think you're going to see more of. And I think it was kind of a conservative approach, whether it was the play calling from Zach or whether it was Jake Browning just not willing to take a lot of shots in that first start against Pittsburgh. He's fearless now. I mean, he will throw the ball into tight windows. He'll take shots down the field, sometimes to his detriment. I mean, that was kind of a panic throw, that interception against Minnesota. I think he learned a lesson from that. So I think you're going to see them run the ball more. It'd be hard to run it less than eight handoffs that they had in that first game. And part of that, too, is they only had 42 snaps in that game. They just couldn't get in a rhythm. And I think that's what they've really done a good job with Jake Browning with these screens is letting him get some early completions and get in a rhythm and get on a roll, and kind of like a shooter, seeing the ball go through the net a couple times, and then the confidence builds. So I think you're going to see them possess the ball more, not have all these 3 and outs. I still don't think it's going to be a super high scoring game, but it's going to look different than the first Pittsburgh game, but it's also going to look different than what we've seen the last couple of weeks, because I can't imagine we're going to see too many, if any, bootlegs, which is what's really been a big part of Jake Browning's game.
Will the third receiver slot, you think, Jay, be really a mix and match depending on down and distance and situation with Chase out?
Yeah, I really think it will. It's interesting because, last year when Chase was out, Trenton Irwin really stepped up, and he's been pretty quiet here recently. Even last week, they had 11 receivers catch a pass. That was one shy of the NFL record, and Irwin didn't have any. They had 9 guys catch 2 passes, which was one shy of the NFL record. So it's kind of strange that Trenton Irwin was not involved. I think we're going to see a lot of Andre Yoshibas. the rookie from Pittsburgh or from Princeton. He's really come on and built some trust, and he's not making a ton of catches, but they like what he's doing. You saw Jake Browning take the deep shot for Charlie Jones. Maybe we see some more of that this week. And then I think you're really going to see him lean into the tight ends with it primarily Tanner Hudson. I think he has really come on and supplanted Irv Smith as the primary receiving option among those tight ends.
Well, I would highly recommend everybody read your story that just posted a little while ago about, really who to root for. This whole thing, to me, I mean, your eyes can start rolling around in the back of your head, because of, well, you didn't play this team, and if there's more than two teams, the head-to-head thing goes out the window, and there's another. So you laid it out there beautifully. At the end of the day, because you said really it could go either way, at the end of the day, are you rooting for the Browns or the Texans?
I think you have to root for the Texans because if the Texans win that game, first of all, and then the Bengals can handle business, then the Bengals and Browns have the same record, and they've got that Week 18 match. So the Bengals can just go ahead and move right ahead of the Browns in that game. The other reason is you want the Texans to win the AFC South because the Texans have the head-to-head tiebreaker on the Bengals, whereas the Colts and the Jaguars do not. The Bengals beat them. So that's what you want. If you want to get into a tiebreaker situation with teams that you've beaten, because the Bengals, if head-to-head doesn't apply, it goes to conference record. And right now the Bengals are 3-6 in the conference. And if they win out, then it's a little bit better. They've got a shot. But the way it stands now, they don't want to be in a tiebreaker situation where they're either against teams that they lost to or teams that they didn't play at all, which forces it down into the conference record. Because in order for head-to-head to apply, you have to have beaten every other team in the tie or lost every other team in the tie to either be advanced or to be taken out. And the Bengals have not played the Broncos. They do not play the Broncos. So if the Broncos get into that mix where it's a jumbled tiebreaker, that's not good for the Bengals. And same with the Texans. So root for the Texans to win out, root for the Jaguars and the Colts to lose at least one more. And I think the Bengals will be in good shape.
Okay. Jay, we thank you for your time. Safe travels, my friend, to and fro Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Merry Christmas, Tom. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Jay Morrison.
Hey there. Thanks for watching our video. If you like our stuff, like, share, and subscribe. If you want to see more of our content, check out this video and check out this video.